Okay, it's time for headlines. More headlines. Now, I like to go through the headlines, the things that are being presented to the public. And one of the sources that does this, some of the most eye-grabbing, attention-grabbing headline aggregators, is Drudge Report. Love it or hate it, and most people kind of hate it. It's a good aggregator of stuff that catches people's eyes, and people in the newspaper industry do look at it because it plucks out some interesting articles that you're not going to that maybe what we missed and that do have a mass appeal. Whoever's running Drudge has some talent for picking these out and has for decades now. So and I also wanted to say I had one of my best performing videos, which is not even saying much at that. It's the one about aliens, where I just try to ruminate on one point: the shaky cam in some of these alien videos from the '90s that were proven to be fake long after that for many reasons. But I was making the point you could kind of look at the style of the video and know that they were fake right from the beginning because of the shaky cam. And that video got more comments than any other video I've ever had. So I'm going to have to dig out some more alien subjects. So if you know any alien subjects I could comment on, I'll do another alien video. And you see, I do these videos about geopolitics, giving context to these news articles, but I guess nobody is as interested in war, actual war in the world, when you have some alien videos to be discussed. So I guess that's true of me too. But this could be interesting also. Now, here we have NATO's nightmare. U.S. and Europe have no clear plan for a joint attack from Russia and China. This is years ago in the Cold War era. The U.S. military was built around having to fight two simultaneous wars around the world. I think that's fallen by the wayside in the previous decades. And now, you see, we have a situation where the U.S. is in a war in the most critical spot in the world, which is in the Persian Gulf, essentially at war with Iran. And the knock-on effect from that, this isn't a war in some place it's not important. This is where the oil to very important countries in Asia goes through. And by cutting off that oil supply, that really disrupts the entire world economy, as we all know. So people are postulating that at this time, with Trump in a disadvantageous position coming up on the midterm elections, maybe it might be a good time to press the U.S. Certainly, Russia would like to. And like, what would happen if Russia started attacking a NATO country in Europe, like one of those Baltic states that was brought into NATO? Because with NATO, it says there's attack on one, it's an attack on all. So this would test the resolve. It would mean all of the countries of NATO would have to go to war with Russia and, risk all of the attendant nuclear ramifications of that. So what if Russia said, yeah, we're pushed to our backs to the wall by this Ukrainian thing, and we do that. And then at the same time, they somehow convince China to invade Taiwan, again, testing the U.S. resolve. And it might be an important inflection point for both of those countries, especially if there isn't the will in the West to all the countries of NATO going to war with Russia and the U.S. going to war with China, all at the same time. It's at war in the most strategic point in the world, in the Persian Gulf. So this is maybe one of those art of war situations where people would see the U.S. overtaxed and take the advantage in some situation. However, you might say, not sure why China would want to do this. I think you would probably bet that the countries of NATO and the United States would decide they have to fight back against that. They have to engage. Why China in its position? There's a lot of propaganda channels on YouTube that are saying China's going to collapse any moment, this sort of thing. Probably isn't. I'm not sure why China would want to provoke a situation with Taiwan now. Could be an internal leadership situation, an existential threat within in China, maybe that could cause them to take that desperate move. But I'm not sure how much further China would want to go out on a limb to do that. Who knows? Sometimes it's not clear from the outside what's going on in these countries that might lead China to want to do that. But, if you have a situation where the United States is diminished in a conflict with Russia and with Iran in the Persian Gulf, why would China want to diminish its position by, going into conflict as well? They would be the beneficiaries of that new world that's created from that. Okay. What's next? And the important news has got Big Butt Trump. This is the next big part of news. You see the video of him with his big butt, supposedly, and coming up on the midterm, a lot of the media are going to be doubling down on all of this, showing that people don't like the ruling party that's in power, and nobody wants to buy Trump merchandise. That's about typical. When you're going to a midterm election, whoever's the incumbent is, they're going to come out a little worse for wear, and the media is going to say it's a wipeout no matter what. Here's more cracking down. Years of Trump support came undone. They're getting rid of the immigrants. I guess doesn't seem quite fair. This is kind of going on beyond illegal immigrants to other people, throwing them out. I've lived in a lot of countries overseas where that is the case. They're very strict. They don't really like foreigners. So I'm used to being an immigrant or a non-immigrant, someone staying in another country and being treated like garbage. So I'm not maybe quite as shocked by all of this stuff in the U.S. as maybe some Americans are. The U.S. is a country of immigrants, so it's it's going to be more open to immigrants and legal immigration even than most countries of the world are. Try going down to Mexico, across the border into their country, see what happens to you. But certainly Trump has lost the plot on this sort of thing because he's allowed it himself to look bad in the way these immigration roundups have been conducted. Here it is. Don's bulging butt. Blonde aide raises eyebrows after golf weekend. See, I don't talk much in my normal life. I sit at home and I write most of the time, and the rest of the time I just worry. Not even sleep, it's just worry and writing. So I don't talk a lot. So when I get on screen and start talking, I say like 2 minutes of talking, I can barely speak anymore. My voice is gone. So see, I would contest, here's a Daily Beast. Trump blonde aide raises eyebrows after golf weekend. I don't think it does. I think people already realize he's probably a philanderer. But the media wants to push these things, which I suppose they should do. for every other previous president. You know what they did to Gary Hart in the 80s. Anybody who was seen as a philanderer, that was the end of him. But I guess Trump has kind of broken that curse. He doesn't even answer to these things. What else do we have? That's interesting that I can say something about it. My intent here is just to add a little context because there's a lot of news that comes out and it's just telling the news. And there may be a little something under it, beyond it. And the media often doesn't mention those points at all. Mamdani, Netanyahu puts Mamdani alongside Alatola in ad. I'm someone you can probably tell. I'm pragmatic. Some things I'm like an old Chris Rock routine. Some things I'm liberal about. Some things I'm conservative about. Probably a tiny bit more conservative than liberal. But I don't like when, there's people like AOC or Mamdani, when you just slather them with, a socialist brush, tar them. Very often when you hear them speak, what they're saying is not so outrageous. And it seems like things that should be done, some good ideas. And if the mainstream political parties, the core of those, integrate those into their policy, they'll be smart. It's exactly the same way when you see all these articles that say about Trump, that says he rants or unhinged. This is put in the headlines of articles, not in editorials or commentaries, but just an article reporting something. Then if you actually saw the speech or heard what he says, I don't think, you may not even agree with it, but it's not really ranting or unhinged. It's just the writer of the article disagreed with it, and so he wants to paint it in a certain way. So I think it would behoove all of us to listen to what people are actually saying rather than tarring them with an ideological brush. That's my opinion. Flock cameras. Now, I just wanted to, this is a big thing in the States here. People, they're creating these surveillance systems, I guess way beyond 1984, to track everybody's car in real time, and they can, if something goes wrong, they can stop you right away, and that's good. And the argument is, well, if a child is snatched off the street by a crazed pervert, don't you want to catch them right away? Don't you want to have surveillance for that? And the answer is, well, of course you would, but. And I'm not even saying I'm against the flock cameras. I'm just saying the concept behind opposing these surveillance systems is that once they're in place, they might be used for something else. Maybe in the future, they use them to look at people and track if they're wearing masks in some future pandemic, or they create some new law that taxes people who don't do a certain thing, and you want to track to make sure that people aren't driving because they'll lose their licenses if they don't. I guess what I'm saying is, when we create a system, the politicians will think of a way to use it for future things that they're outraged about. And, especially how polarized our politics are now, who knows what the Republicans or the Democrats, what they could get up to with utilizing these security systems for certain activities that the other side feels repugnant. But so this is it's good. This is good. I'm an old fogey. I benefit from all of this security, but we do have to be aware that these systems are just systems, and they're being used for certain ends, and they could be used for something else in the future. That's the danger. AI has plunged the publishing industry into chaos. Okay. I think this is great. This is an article about all these books that are being published, that there's prompts left in the printing of the book, or you could tell afterwards they were written by AI, and they have to be withdrawn. So the industry, the publishers are trying to, how can they deal with this? And I'm on some Facebook groups of supposed authors and people talking about the business. And always in there, you might look up somebody, and this person's an author. They got lots of books, and you look it up, and they've been publishing for the past 2 years 4 novels a month on Amazon. They put, it takes about 18 months. If you're really good and you're writing a book from scratch, like I do, it takes about 18 months to write a book. That's the bottom line. I know other people say, oh, you have to do 3 or 4 a year. You cannot write a book like that. I do not believe that is possible. It takes a long time to write a book, a good book. So I'm quite perturbed of these people who kind of set themselves up as a paragon in the industry with so many books. I hope they crack down on that sort of thing. And all I could say from something like this is I'm glad that AI is seen by most people, and especially people in the publishing industry, as a bad thing. Because it may be the class that I am in the United States, but everybody here is about saving money. So if you buy a new pair of shoes and they cost $100 and they're nice shoes from a brand, another person says, look, I got these at Walmart and they're only, $20. You say, yeah, but they're not this brand of shoe and they're not comfortable. And they said, yes, but it's less money. Even if it's just $1 less, people will look at you like you're a fool that you spent $1 more. So I was pretty sure that when AI came in, people would say, well, it's free. It costs less to create this way. So we're never going to pay for anything if we could do it with this AI. And luckily, people are turning up their nose, and readers I know denigrate people, authors that have obvious AI covers or even covers that look like AI. So I don't know where things are going. I'm just one person writing. Somewhere on my website, tobangkok.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, and I have actual stories and things that I will send out to you, and I'll let you know when the new books come out. But I don't know. I'm just one person writing books, and it takes a long time. Not 4 a month. Let's see. What else do we have here? Gosh, this poor Hayden Panettiere, whatever. I know her. I mean, I know her on TV as an actress. The only thing I always think about this is how awful to have the money, the fame. I have a lot of ego, and I like money. So if I had the ego of being a well-known person that can trade on their name and fame, and I have the money and I have the work in a creative industry, how awful that you can't really enjoy it, and it ruins your life somehow through excess or whatever. That's very sad. Here we have Dems turning to socialism, capitalism not working. There's several levels to this kind of thought. As I said earlier, people we have to be careful not to tar people with labels. Just listen to what they say, and maybe the other party can take those issues and do them themselves, undercut this socialist thinking. That's certainly what happened in the 30s and 40s with the Roosevelt presidency, where he did a lot of things that people thought was straight up socialism, and now they are part of our culture, like our Social Security, all that government stuff. We're not a purely laissez-faire country at all, and haven't been for a long time. And the other aspect of this is what it can mean for the midterms in November. If too many socialist or very left-leaning candidates win in the primaries and are going to be up in the general election in November, the danger is that the wide electorate would not want to be that far left, and that if the Democrats put up candidates that are too far left leaning, that can allow those candidates to be tarred with the brush of socialism or communism or radicalism, and can be disadvantageous to an electorate. Traditionally in the United States, really since the 80s and especially the 90s with the Clintons, you've wanted to capture the middle of the electorate. The loudest voices are always on the far right and the far left, but most people are probably pragmatic in the middle. That's what you want to capture. So if you end up too far right and too far left, that can hurt you. Boy, here's aliens and war and all this other stuff and right and left. But to me, fast food, I mean, it's incredible the syndrome in the last maybe 7 years in the United States. When I come back, they talk about this, I don't like to use bad words, but the Cory Doctorow term, enshittification, where something about capitalism, probably the month-on-month, the desire for month-on-month profits, year-on-year profits and growth have caused many products to be whittled away and using cheaper and cheaper and crummier ingredients and making them smaller. And this certainly has happened in where I'm from, and I go out and I sample all the fast food that I couldn't get when I was overseas, and it's terrible and small and not as good as it used to be. So, where growing up, 70s, 80s, even 90s, fast food was a constant. It was something that was always the same, perfect, but somehow they've tampered with that formula, all these companies, to diminish their product and make it just terrible. Welcome to the Needle Nation. People getting shots for everything. No more fat people fitness stuff. That just, what another media fad we chase after. And now everybody's getting these Botox shots. I'll have to look into that. And finally, Phobos. See how introspective I got when I was thinking about being fat, admitting it. There's supposed to be some curse about Phobos, the aliens. When you send a probe near there, it gets turned off. I think the Russians had some probes that happened to. Well, Japan and China are rushing to the planet, or to the moon of Mars. And everything seems like so many years ahead. When is this happening? They're going to get samples from it. Oh, it's just, there it is. It hasn't even launched yet. So it's just been revealed to the public. So that'll be interesting. I hope we're all alive by then. I think that's the news for today. I really enjoy doing these Drudge Reports, looking at the news, thinking about the context, even myself. What's really behind it? What does it mean that we're being given this news? What's going on in the world? So If you like them, please like and subscribe, or leave a comment. At least say hi or something. And I will see you for the next Drudge Report or Alien Report, which I'll see if I can set up. Bye bye.